taking away health insurance with people with pre-existing conditions, Pam Bondi. Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you!
It sounds like The View right out there in front of the movie theater. Poor Pam Bondi, the Attorney General of Florida, trying to eat her popcorn and milk duds, and she's got to go through all of that. Well, on the Newsmaker line to help us figure out what happened outside that movie theater is Pam Bondi on the Newsmaker line. Welcome to the program.
Hi, how are you? Good morning.
Pam, I have to tell you, my hat's off to you because I'm not sure I would have been as graceful and civil with those folks as you were.
Well, what you're hearing was after the fact. There were 3 altercations prior to that. Waiting in line to buy tickets, a woman came up and started saying that I was taking babies away from their mothers, and I said, I'm glad you're videoing this because I don't agree with that. And I've told you, I think I've said very publicly that I'm glad the president signed the executive order doing away with that, and so I said I'm not supporting taking babies away from mothers. I'm glad that's not happening anymore. That's got to be an act of Congress. And, then it just, when they weren't getting the reaction they wanted, then these big guys started screaming and yelling and provoking my boyfriend as best they could. I mean, come on, aren't you going to protect her? Aren't you going to do anything? And I just had to turn to him and I said, this is what they want, And when you're with someone you care about, how do you not jump in and protect them when you have these big people in your face? And he didn't. I just kept saying, this is what they want. This is what they want. So we thought it was over, bought the tickets, went in. They blocked me in the vestibule from walking in, started all over again. Then my trooper ran up and stopped it, then thought it was over, went to the snack bar while waiting in line to get popcorn. That was probably one of the worst of the 4 altercations. They came up, started just yelling at me. Again, all I could do was start screaming my trooper's name for him to run over. That's all I could think to do was just start screaming his name. And I never made eye contact with them. I never looked at them. And they were not going to keep me from watching the movie.
So we're talking about, I want to go back here for just a second,
Sure.
though. And these guys, I mean, these were, you described them as big, burly guys. Is that right? And they got into your face.
Oh, they were in my face. Well, they were much taller than I was. So I was doing my best. I didn't even make eye contact with them. It's interesting because until the video that appeared later after 4 marked police units were called, I didn't even realize that one of them was wearing glasses, the one with the red hat. So, that's how I just tried not to make eye contact with them. I had no words with them other than the initial statement that I told you, when I tried to explain about it was an act of Congress, not for me, and, and they wanted nothing to do with that. And so after that, I didn't even make eye contact with them. But, yeah, they were huge. And you can actually see 2 of them on the video, how big they were. One, a police officer, took his arm. That was one of them. I know there were 3 inside. So by the time the movie was over, marked units were called. Of course, there were I think 4 law enforcement officers there, and they wanted to take me out a back door. And I said, no way. I will not be intimidated. We're walking out the door that we came in. And then that's the video that they showed of them just screaming at me. But you can at least it helped us because now we can identify 2 of the 4.
Has anyone been arrested, charged with a crime here?
No, and this may sound silly, but I didn't want them charged. I wanted them to leave me alone. That's what they wanted. They wanted either for my boyfriend to hit them and them, a big, huge brawl to break out, or they wanted to film themselves being taken out in handcuffs. And I wasn't going to let that happen. And so that's how it went down. Now, one spit on my head, and he was yelling so loud it was blowing my hair, so I couldn't even tell if that was. I could have said right there, he spit on me, arrest him, and I didn't. I said, we've got to see the video from the theater, And if we can prove that he intentionally spit on me, not just when he was screaming and cursing at me, then I want him charged. And there was no video from the theater.
How did this crowd know that you were at the movie theater? Had they been following you around, stalking you?
You know, I think that it was a coincidence. I mean, unless they had been following me, I just think they kind of got lucky, and in their opinion, and saw me there that night, which is kind of crazy that those people would choose to go see a movie about Mr. Rogers practicing, who practiced anti-bullying and anti-bullying has always been a thing that I've, with children, that I've been invested in. And so Mr. Rogers was ahead of his time. In the 60s and 70s, he was doing that. And it was, promoting anti-bullying. So I think it's very interesting that they would choose to go see that movie about civility and treating people with kindness and respect the differences, the political differences that they have. And so what they were doing there is beyond me. I don't know. But I do know while I was in the movie for 2 hours, they did have time to research issues and rally more people. And so that escalated then, but of course by then there were 4 MARP units there.
I like what you did. I think it sends the right message to conservatives, and especially young and impressionable conservatives, that they've got to take a stand, and they don't have to be be uncivil about it, but they can take a stand, and that's what you did here.
Yeah, and it's obviously it's not easy when people are screaming in your face like that. It's pretty ugly. It's very ugly, in fact. And and again, it was so hard for the person I was with not to jump in. I mean, it was actually probably even more difficult on him. And I just kept saying, this is what they wanted. This is what they want. This is what they want. So wasn't going to give them what they wanted.
All right. Well, we're glad that you were not injured. Your boyfriend was not injured. And let's just hope that these folks have learned their lessons. By the way, Pam, how was the movie?
Well, I've as much of it as I could take in after that happened. It was about all the things that you and I were talking about, civility, and I hope they listen to that. And, if I can say one last thing, I want to give Chuck Schumer some credit yesterday. He came out and said, don't do this. This isn't right. He wasn't equivocal. I mean, he was just firm. This is not right to do this. Pelosi wavered all over the place, of course.
Sure did.
Maxine Waters doubled down, telling people to crowd people to go after them wherever they are. You saw all that on Saturday. She did that after the incident. But Chuck Schumer came out and said, this is wrong. And that's what we all need to do. Absolutely.
Well said. Well said. Pam Bondi, we really appreciate you, and thanks for being on the program.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi. I really wanted to know how that movie was, because I've seen the reviews, and I'm not sure if I want to go see it or not. But hopefully nothing like that happens when I go to the movie theater. So good for you, Pam Bondi. And, folks, it really is a message that we all need to understand, that we cannot respond like the left. We can't do that. We cannot do that, but we can take a stand, just like Pam Bondi did down there in the great state of Florida.